LSU opens up week 2 of fall camp. I'll tell you the 3 biggest position battles I'm watching. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks for making us your first listen every single day. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts. We are also today brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. Be sure to make every moment more as the playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting as we want them to. FanDuel lets us keep the action going all summer long. FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are going to delve into sort of a precursor of the week with LSU opening up week 2 of fall camp. I will get to some of the biggest personnel questions that I have. We're going to get to that at the end of the show. But what I want to do here in these first couple of segments are walk you through the 3 biggest position battles that I'm watching here as we start week 2. So thank you for being here with us. Let me begin just by giving you a rundown of what the week will be for LSU. So just as a reminder, Tigers open up fall camp on Thursday. We had full media access. Friday, media got about 15 minutes. It was mostly special teams viewing. Saturday, the team practiced, but there was no media availability. Sunday was a recovery day. So on Monday, the Tigers will be back on the practice field at 9:45 a.m., and the media will have full access to the practice on Monday. So I'll be able to give you a really good recap of everything we see, team periods and all, after Monday's practice. Tuesday is also open to the media, but the team starts practice at 9:45. Media access begins an hour later at 10:45, and we should get about an hour worth of viewing. Brian Kelly is going to meet with reporters after practice on Tuesday. Players are available to the media after practice on Monday. So Monday, full practice, then player interviews. Tuesday, but an hour of practice, and then Brian Kelly. Wednesday will be the first day of full pads of fall camp. So put a big star next to Wednesday, because I think that's when we're really going to start to find some things out about this team, in particular at the line of scrimmage. And that Wednesday practice is open to the media fully. And then we'll meet with Joe Sloan after practice. Thursday is an off day. Friday, they do have a full practice, but no media availability except to interview players after practice. And then Saturday, we get the full practice. And then Blake Baker after practice will meet with reporters. Then Sunday will be a recovery day. So that's the week ahead for LSU. And I told you I wanted to talk about 3 battles that I'm watching this week, 3 position battles. And we'll start with one that might be a little bit off the beaten path that maybe we're not spending a ton of time talking about because Garrett Nussmeier is so entrenched as the starter. But I think it is time that we start paying attention to who is going to win that number 2 quarterback job. Is it going to be A.J. Swan, the Vanderbilt transfer, or is it going to be Ricky Collins, the local kid out of Woodlawn who redshirted a year ago? And if you remember, and I'd invite you to go back and listen to Friday's show, which would have been my full recap from Thursday's practice, I went through every play of the 7-on-7s that we charted. And just as a flyover view to remind you, A.J. Swan was 8 of 9 passing in his 7-on-7 reps. Now, 2 of those were screen passes, and he threw a beautiful ball to Kyle Parker, so it wasn't like it was all short stuff. Ricky Collins was 6 of 9 with an interception. Collins threw the interception. Let me look at my notes again. Ricky Collins' interception was, he was going deep to Jelani Watkins. He underthrew it, was intercepted by P.J. Woodland. And he also threw a ball that should have been intercepted by Bernard Causey, but was dropped. But while Collins, and by the way, Caden Durham dropped a screen from Ricky Collins. So the 3 incompletions were the interception, the dropped interception, and then Caden Durham dropped a screen. So really, if Caden Durham catches that ball, it should have been 7 of 9. But the two were in harm's way. But the flip side of that is maybe the two best throws of the entire day belong to Ricky Collins. One ball was on the right side to Aaron Anderson, where he fitted into a tight window about 12, 15 yards downfield into double coverage and just boom, dart right into a tight window. Aaron Anderson made a great catch too in traffic, but beautiful throw by Collins. And then the big wow play that Trey'Dez Green made down the right sideline, high pointing the ball in double coverage. That was a ball that Ricky Collins threw up as a 50-50 ball and said to his big 6'7" tight end, go get it. So my point is, Collins had two really poor decisions, a ball that was intercepted and one that was a dropped interception, but he also had two pretty wow plays. Swan was a little less dramatic. I don't know that there was anything that really popped except for that deep ball to Kyle Parker, but he was efficient. 8 of 9, a couple of screens, did have that one deep pass. So, and I know, listen, I'm not sitting here in any way suggesting that either of those guys are vying for starter or first team reps. This is Garrett Nussmeier's team, period, paragraph, not even a question. The reason I bring this up is that since Burrow in 2018 and 2019, look at what LSU's quarterback position has been since then. In 2020, Miles Brennan, it was finally his turn, right? Similar to now. And Brennan got injured in that Missouri game. After that, we saw both TJ Finley and Max Johnson play. Used 3 quarterbacks that year. In 2021, Brennan comes back from the injury, gets injured before fall camp starts. You had the incident when he tripped on a deck and broke his arm. Max Johnson ended up being the starter. We also saw Garrett Nussmeier that season as well. And then John Troy Kirkland played the bowl game, but that I don't know if we necessarily count that. And then the last 2 seasons, Jaden Daniels has been your starting quarterback and obviously went on to win a Heisman. But Nuss has played certainly in mop-up duty and then started the bowl game, as we well know. But the point being that you go back and look, and LSU, and even if you look in 17, when it was Danny Etling and a young Miles Brennan, you know, it's the nature of college football, and you don't ever want to think or talk about injuries, but you better prepare for the possibility of them. So if something were to happen, Jaden Daniels takes a cheap shot by Dallas Turner, Garrett Nussmeier has to go into the ball game, right? What happens if Nussmeier takes a tough shot, gets concussed, turns an ankle, has to come out? Who goes in? Is it Ricky Collins? Is it AJ Swan? And right now, and again, very small sample size, Swan, I think you have lower risk taking. Also has redeveloped his body. We noted that the roster has him down 17 pounds from his weight in spring. But Ricky Collins maybe has a little more of the flash and a little maybe higher upside. So that's one that I want to watch this week in particular to see, okay, as we chart the team period, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, whatever we get to see, do we start to see some separation? For what it's worth, when they went 7-on-7, Swan went first in the first 7-on-7. In the second 7-on-7, Ricky Collins went first, and then AJ Swan went next. So I want to keep an eye on that backup quarterback battle, not because anybody's vying for Garrett Nussmeier's job. I'm not saying that, but there feels like it. You better say it this way. You better be ready so you don't have to get ready. So that's one. There's 2 more position battles that I'm watching as the Tigers hit the practice field here in week 2. I'll get to that here in just a quick second. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Passion, drive, performance. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. It's eBay Motors. So I told you that the number 2 quarterback job is one position battle I'm watching here in week 2. I'll get to the other 2 here in just a quick second. But thank you, of course, for making Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. For your second listen, enjoy Locked On College Football. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussions on the upcoming season, the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and so much more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so if backup quarterback is number 1, I'll give you the other 2 that I'm keeping an eye on. 1, or I guess number 2 here, would be defensive tackle rotation. And in part because they're finally getting into full pads. So when we got to watch drills on last week on Thursday, we did get to see an 11-on-11 period. Now, keep in mind, when you're going 7-on-7s, there's no lineman, offensive or defense. It's just your quarterback, receivers, tight end, running back, and it's linebacker secondary on the defensive side. So no defensive line. But we did get to see an 11-on-11 period, which was kind of like a 2-minute period. There again, no pads. It was sort of thud. It was just, hate to say against air because the defense was there, but we did get to see the alignment. And then whenever the defense was running scout team, so it was a scout offense against your first and second team defense, we did get to see how they lined up. And your first 2 defensive tackles were Jacobian Guillory and Gio Paez, the Wisconsin transfer. Remember, Guillory is a 5th-year senior. Paez is a 6th-year player. I'll tell you one thing that struck me about Paez is I thought he would be bigger. Now, this isn't a total detriment, but he's listed at 6'3", 305. Maybe just being next to some giant guys like Dominic McKinley, or who's 6'6", 315 is where they have him listed. Even Sean Washington, they list Sean Washington at 6'4", 298. So they have Paez at 6'3", 305. Washington looks bigger than 298 to me. I'm not sitting there looking at the scale. Do I know? Nor do I know or really care. But I'm just giving you an observation. Paez just looked a little smaller, but we'll see how that all goes. But and then the second team defensive tackles were Sean Washington. And you know Washington's backstory, right? So from New Orleans, freshman year went to University of Georgia, transferred after 1 year, went to JUCO, and then this year, his 3rd year in college, he's coming home and he's going to play at LSU. So it's Sean Washington and then Kimo Makanaioli. There's not a lot of skins on the wall there. Guillory's been a rotational player. Paez was a rotational end in a 3-4 at Wisconsin. Now he's moving inside to play tackle. Sean Washington sat a year at Georgia, played JUCO last year. Now he's trying to step up. And then Kimo Makanaioli's been an offensive lineman his whole career. So, is there any movement among those guys? And does anyone else step up? And I'll give you 3 names that I'll keep an eye on. One is Jalen Lee. So Jalen Lee is a kid from New Orleans who started his college career at the University of Florida. Excuse me, I said Jalen Lee's from New Orleans. Excuse me, he's from Live Oak. Jalen Lee went to Live Oak, then went to University of Florida, transferred to LSU last year, mostly a rotational player, and now in his senior season, he's looking for more playing time and could very well earn it. JVR Suggs is the other guy worth keeping an eye on. He's wearing number 31. This is the transfer from Grand Valley State. He's listed at 6'3", 295. He is a junior. He's a transfer in from Grand Valley State. So I'll tell you my biggest takeaway from Suggs. And again, we saw them. It's so hard. Please don't misunderstand me. It is so hard to try to garner anything from the line when they're not wearing pads. So we know the LSU offensive line is set in stone, but that's why I'm telling you, I think the reason I'm going to keep an eye on defensive line this week is because we'll have questions about it, but also They're going to put pads on Wednesday. So we're going to get to see how they look with pads on when they're going physical against a really good offensive line. So again, my takeaway from Suggs is he looks strong. Suggs has massive arms and looks like he's a guy that if he gets into your pads could get a push. So that was an observation. Like the type of guy, Mekhi Wingo, super strong on the interior, gets his hands on, you can get a push from the interior. That's what Suggs kind of reminded me of when I saw him. Not as small as Wingo. They list Suggs, by the way, I think I just told you this, but they list Suggs at 6'3", 295. So bigger than certainly bigger than Mekhi Wingo, but comparable, I guess I would say, in skill set on its face. And then Dominic McKinley, the 5-star freshman, is massive. You go look at the defensive line. Like if I just took you and you knew nothing about LSU football, and I took you out to practice and walked you over to the defensive line, you would go, holy crap, who's 96? He's just that much bigger than everybody. And so he's going to stand out. Now, the thing that Dominic McKinley told me on my radio show after he committed to LSU, when I asked him point blank, what do you need to work on? He said technique. And Bo Davis spent large chunk of practice on Thursday when we got to watch, working with Dominic McKinley on his technique, hand placement, staying low, all that stuff. So refining that beautiful piece of stone, molding that clay, really is what Bo Davis has to do with Dom McKinley. So QB2, defensive tackle rotation, and then wide receiver rotation. I'll tell you why. I think we're all, and I'm guilty of this, we're all just assuming Kyron Lacy 1, Chris Hilton 2, CJ Daniels 3. Those are your top 3. And it may come to pass that way. And look, Kyron Lacy on day 1 had 3 targets. CJ Daniels had 3 targets. But Chris Hilton was not targeted one time, day 1. Not that we got to see anyway. And we got 15 minutes of practice on day 2, and it was primary special teams. So they also practiced on Saturday, and we got no availability on Saturday, which is why I'm telling you, going into this week when we're going to get availability Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I want to watch the wide receivers, because my assumption has been Lacy, Hilton, CJ Daniels. Those are your 3. Everybody else will fight for reps. Well, Lacy and Daniels were targeted and were with the ones. Hilton was running with the ones, but they didn't target him one time. And it wouldn't be as big a deal had other guys not made great plays. Shelton Sampson made back-to-back leaping contested grabs on the sideline. Of course, he had his head on the ground and it was a little woozy, as Brian Kelly said, so they held him out the remainder of practice. Aaron Anderson only had 1 target, but it was one that he caught a middle screen, split 2 defenders, and housed it. We've talked about Trey'Dez Green. I know he's a tight end, but Trey'Dez Green was targeted 4 times, caught all 4. So Kylan Billiot caught a touchdown on a deep ball. So I guess my point is, you have so many guys that all are out there making plays. Eventually, the question is, who does it consistently to where you can't ignore it? You have to pay attention to that player because of how consistently they're splashing. And you start to get a better sense of that once they put the pads on as well. So those are my 3 position battles I'm watching. Quarterback 2, defensive tackle rotation, especially once they put the pads on, and then wide receiver rotation, who emerges consistently. Tons of guys made great plays we got to see. With 3 consecutive days of drills this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that the media is going to get to see, we should start to see some separation, if it does in fact exist, and start to happen that way. Okay. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here with us. I told you there were position battles that I was watching, and then there are 3 personnel questions that I think need to be answered. I want to get to that as we continue to wrap up Locked on LSU, your team every day. I love sports. I love sports. Sports. Love them so much. I never want them to stop. But the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. The sports aren't sporting like we want them to. But FanDuel lets us keep the sports going whenever we want. All we got to do, open up the app and dream up bets anytime that we're in the mood. Go ahead and open up the FanDuel app right now, because especially this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers, not just new customers, all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. Looking at it right here. MLB 30% profit boost, 30% profit boost on international hoops. If you're watching international hoops in the Olympics, so many great MLB boosts and bonuses as well. I'm telling you, even if you sports bet somewhere else, it's worth downloading FanDuel app, go to FanDuel.com and taking advantage of the boost of the bonus. But because why not? They're giving you a great opportunity, especially like you bet $5 for new customers, bet $5, get 150 in bonus bets if you win. Why not? Make a money line bet on Team USA in basketball. They win, great. You get that 150 in bonus bets over at FanDuel. So check them out. Download the app. It's FanDuel. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So as we wrap up the show here today, there are 3 questions that I think personnel-wise that I'm curious looking at. I talked about the position battles that I'm watching, but 3 personnel questions. One starts in the secondary, and it's what do you do with Sage Ryan? And I think this is part and parcel with Zy Alexander. So Sage Ryan spent all spring at safety. Brian Kelly told us that was by design. They're cross-training Sage Ryan. And I really feel like they want to play Sage Ryan at safety. This is just my guess. I feel like Sage Ryan is a more natural safety. And in his career, he's played nickel and he's played boundary corner. He's yet to play his natural position at LSU. And I think they would love to have Sage Ryan back there at safety. But if you continue to struggle at corner, and he played a ton of corner for you last year, and you need him there, then you have to keep him sharp there as well. I also think part of that goes hand in hand with Zy Alexander. So Zy Alexander, you know the story, was your best corner a year ago, tore his ACL against Army. Brian Kelly said he's 100%. He's cleared to go. When we watched practice on Thursday, Zy Alexander was dressed, but did not participate in any drills. Brian Kelly said he's got to feel comfortable. Planting, cutting, running, changing direction, all that stuff, and it's just going to be feeling it. But I'm curious if when Zy Alexander is comfortable and is back out there in 7-on-7, 11-on-11, do we see Sage Ryan go back to safety? I think that's number one. Number 2 is the running back rotation. Brian Kelly was adamant about this when he spoke to the media after practice on Thursday as well. They know what Josh Williams can do. He's going to shoulder a huge load, and they just need to get him to Saturdays. They don't need him taking tons of meaningful reps in practice. John Emery, on the flip side, coming off a torn ACL, they want to test him to see how his knee holds up, and those were the 1-2. I, along with I think everybody else, is really excited to see what Caleb Jackson can do this year. Well, he didn't really get much of an opportunity in what we saw. Again, media availability for 3 practices this week. We'll get a much better look, especially when they get to pads, how Caleb Jackson looks. My guess is like when you saw the spring game as a freshman, when you saw Caleb Jackson's limited opportunities in his freshman season, it's going to be hard to keep him off the field. He's just that special of a talent. And I think that will start to manifest, but that's my other one is Caleb Jackson. And the number 3 is can Trades Green continue to rise? It's undeniable. Anybody with eyes and a pulse that was watching practice on Thursday, you could not miss 14. He's a physical specimen, and he made every play. Literally, they targeted him 4 times in 7-on-7, caught all 4 balls, including a 50-50 ball, high pointing it in double coverage down the right sideline. He was awesome. Can he do it consistently? Because if you continue to see that type of performance out of Trades Green, like we saw day one, but if you continue to see that type of performance day after day after day, then Brian Kelly, Joe Sloan, the offensive coaches have no choice but to look at that and say, we have to find a role for this guy. He's not going to take reps from Mason Taylor. I mean, you got, of course, Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton and all the guys we just talked about. CJ Daniels, Xavion Thomas, Aaron Anderson, Shelton Sampson. I mean, it is an embarrassment of riches among pass catchers for LSU. So I'm not telling you that Trades Green as a freshman is going to get 50 targets on the season. But if he continues to play and progress at this rate, you have to find a role for him. And we'll see, I think, this week if he can stack good days, something I'm going to be keeping an eye out on. So if you got something you want me to watch, do me a favor, podcast, YouTube, Twitter, just find me and drop me a comment. If there's a player in particular or a position battle I'm not talking about that you're interested in, hit me on X at Matt Moscona. Let me know. I'm more than happy to make those notations for you and talk about it here on the show. So please interact and let me know what you want me to keep an eye on if I'm not doing it right now. It is Locked On LSU. We appreciate you so much for being there with us. Of course, if Locked On College Football is going to be your second listen, thank you for making, of course, Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. But make sure, now that we're wrapping up the show, go check out Locked On College Football. From NIL deals, the never-ending conference realignment rumors, my buddy Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked On College Football in the description, so you don't even need to search for it. It's part of the Locked On podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Easy for you to say. Your team every day. Okay, that's going to do it for us here. Thanks so much for being here. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're or subscribe to the pod. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button. And please hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Excited to get to practice on Monday. Be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're giving you practice reports every single day this week right here. It's Locked On LSU, your team every day.